order on the agenda. We're going to move up the WorkSafe program, do that first, and we'll do Convention and Visitors Bureau. Is that okay with you, Greg, as well? Excellent. Okay, and here comes Rick. So why don't we go ahead, and who's going to take the lead? Scott, are you going to take the lead? Okay.
Members of Council, Jeb Brewer, City Engineer. Master Builders of Iowa recently brought to our attention a new program that they have implemented in cooperation with the Department of Labor of Iowa. They call it a WorkSafe program. We thought that may be of interest for Council to discuss. So today's Scott Norvell from Master Builders of Iowa to present their program, something that the city may or may not want to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeb. Good morning. Always a nice place to be on Monday morning. But I have to compliment the city on the streets. It was pretty easy to get here today. So, as Jeb mentioned, my name is Scott Norvell, and I'm here representing the Master Builders of Iowa. And I hope to have shortly here our partner, who is Mike Morrow, representing the Iowa Department of Labor and the Iowa Department of, there he is right now, of OSHA. And our purpose here today is just to talk to you about a program that is a partnership and the first of a kind public partnership in the United States devoted to advancing the prospects for safety performance on the city's work sites on their projects. And if it's okay, if I may, I'd like to introduce Mike Morrow to maybe start and to talk to you a little bit about our partnership and how it began. Mike?
Morning.
Hi, Mike.
Sorry I'm a couple minutes late, but it's certainly a pleasure to be here this morning and to talk about something that is kind of important to the Division of Labor at Workforce Development, and that's workplace safety. And this is something that just didn't develop overnight. This is something that's been in the makings for, I would say, almost a year now. We have been in consultation with the Kansas City office, which is our regional office for OSHA, and in Washington. And then Scott and his group have done a tremendous job of trying to put together a program that will allow us to kind of work together. To give you a little idea about the Division of Labor and the OSHA side, we have two sides to this: a consultation side, which actually goes out and works with companies and individuals to assist them in a manner where they don't have to fear repercussions or penalties. But basically, we'll come out there on their request, do an evaluation, let them know what their project is like, what improvements they have to make, without even referring anything to, if we go out there and see the worst project in the world, we don't refer it to enforcement side. We give them an opportunity to make those corrections. Then there's the enforcement side. The enforcement side is the other part of OSHA, which many people always hear and kind of take a step back, because that's the side where we come out and we see problems and issues, and we address those issues, and in many cases, in some cases, there's fines and citations that go with that. WorkSafe gives us an opportunity to work with Scott's group on a consultation basis. We're basically going to be doing the same thing we always do. We're going to going out to the site, inspecting the site, working in consultation and in partnership and alliance with Scott's organization to see that there's safe workplaces out there, and actually have people take pride in that, hang that banner, and also give notice to the public that this place is a work-safe operation. Doesn't mean you're going to eliminate every problem or every injury, but it certainly sets the proper tone for how things should be done. So that's where we come in with this. We come in as the OSHA side of this thing. We're coming in on a consultation side only. We're coming in to offer assistance with this program to make sure that it works properly and that everyone feels good about it. That's where we want to be. And it's not going to be something just limited to anyone. Everyone will be able to involve in this. Everyone can apply for this. They're going to serve as consultants. We're going to serve as consultants. And we're going to try to put an operation out there that the people in Iowa can be proud of. And I think Scott can talk to you about the ones who have signed on so far. And how we feel this thing will work to be successful in the future. So I'll stop there, turn it back over to Scott, let Scott go from there. I'll be happy to answer questions later on.
Thanks, Mike. So how do we, the goal is to increase the performance of safety on projects, and exactly what is the method by which we would hope to accomplish that. In the proposition of WorkSafe is that training in a team environment facilitated by construction professionals is to everyone's advantage. Working together and training with professionals, with craftsmen, is the essence of the program. The program basically has 4 steps. One is, first and foremost, consultation with the job site leaders to establish safety goals for the project. This is done in consultation and concert with those who would be running the jobs, as well as the owner's representatives, should they choose to participate. Once the goals are established, a consultation schedule is set up whereby professionals both from OSHA and from the Master Builders of Iowa would agree to, on a pre-scheduled basis, visit the job sites in order to do safety surveys. These are very comprehensive audits that audit the contractors that would be on the site that day for safety hazards, and also taking opportunities to point out ways in which they can enhance their performance. Should there be a hazard, the hazard would be pointed out, and there's a stipulation that the hazard is to be remediated within a 24-hour period. And those visits, those surveys occur twice during the job. Also during the project, opportunities are given to anyone involved to seek out consultation on a 24-hour basis. At the end of the project, the final component is then to create a report which measures the progress of the project, the actual performance of the safety against the goals in the front end. So it's not a complicated process, but it is a process that does require a professional eye. One, it does not assume that the people on the job don't know safety. It assumes that they do, but even the best of the best could use a helpful third set of eyes to make sure that not only are they performing at a satisfactory level, but hopefully they have an opportunity with some help to overachieve. The benefits of the city are that with the bidders ahead of time, you are certainly telling everyone that safety performance is a high priority. That's one thing that you would be accomplishing by adopting the WorkSafe program. You are sending a message through the team that your safety expectations are high. There would be professionals on the job, both from IOSHA and from the Master Builders, which is a remarkable partnership of very qualified people to help you engage, help train, and help determine if there are hazards. The hazards would be measured and reported. And one of the things that makes the system unique is that this would also record the hazards that were remediated. So oftentimes, and unfortunately, at the end of a job, we have to report on what occurred that was negative, perhaps an accident, and God forbid a death. But what we don't do a good job is recording the hazards that we caught and that were corrected, that actually maybe saved an injury or a life. So that's the essence of the WorkSafe program. You can see the reporting mechanism. Mr. Coleman has graciously agreed to pass those around.
Yeah, I think everybody's got one now.
Okay. It's the essence of the reporting. So you can see it's very comprehensive. Each report, whoever the owner decides wants that safety information is made aware of those. It can be studied and discussed. So it's a very comprehensive and thorough report. Mike mentioned what parties have agreed to participate in the program so far. And we've been very delighted so far with the outcome. Just in a few short months, I guess it's 2 now, about 35 firms in the private industry, many of those you would recognize as firms having done business with the city of Des Moines or having recognized as done commercial work around the state of Iowa, 35. And we're also happy to report that the Iowa Department of Administrative Services is requiring and including in their specifications language that would require WorkSafe for all of their projects in excess of $1 million. Last week, we were notified by the Iowa Board of Regents that they have taken action to require WorkSafe in their plans and specifications for all the jobs that would occur on for all 3 state universities, and so that would include UNI projects at the University of Iowa and projects at Ames. The number of private projects continue to come in, and probably the last one that would be maybe noteworthy would be to tell you that we've had I think 4 insurance companies who are property and casualty endorse the program. Holmes Murphy, True North, Lemaire. Is that it? Okay. And I really, that's it. It's and what makes the program unique is not the fact that we have consultation on safety. We've been doing that for 35 years. OSHA's been doing it since the 1970s. The fact is that we've joined forces. It's a program, it's unlike any other. It involves assisting in the planning of safety, the monitoring and training during the process, and then writing goals at the end. WorkSafe safety projects are bannered. If the owner chooses, there's a very large banner that's placed that earmarks that project as a WorkSafe project. The workers on the project are given hard hat decals that say WorkSafe. So it also tries to create a team environment and a team spirit for safety. And for my part, I think hopefully there's some questions, but I think I'm done. Mr. Morrow, anything you'd like to add?
No, just I think it's a great partnership that allows us on the OSHA side to do what we naturally want to do, and that's to be consultants. And many times people look at us as being, even when we go out there in a consultation capacity, they look at us with a skeptic eye. Yeah, you're a consultant. With this, it really brings it all together and allows us to work in an environment that we give us the opportunity to get out there and make corrections before they're issued. That's why it's a good one for us.
Mike mentioned, I know your time is limited, something that I thought was important, but this started as a concept. It started as a result of how can we work together to enhance the performance of safety in the industry. We met with a concept, we developed an idea, and went back to our respective organizations. I think 2 committees and 2 boards of directors met on this subject. If I'm not incorrect, hopefully I'm right, close anyway. OSHA developed it here, took it to the regional OSHA Department of Labor office in Kansas City, who then brought it all the way into Washington, D.C., and it was approved at that level, and also confirmed that this is the first public-private partnership of its kind in the country, so we're proud of that. But I guess the proof will be in the pudding to see how it performs. So,
Scott, a couple of questions. This document here that you handed out, the safety report, now, is that done once during each job, or is it done on a regular basis to give updates?
Twice.
Twice.
And then the job leadership, whoever's responsible, is encouraged to visit with any of the consultants about interim issues that they may have. They can pick up the phone if they have a question, or if they want to take a camera shot of something they might believe is a hazard and send it over. We can deal with it like that, or come back to the job.
Okay.
Skip? I have to apologize. I was reading through your safety report, but did you say there's a threshold of projects of $1 million or more?
There isn't, but DAS decided that that their threshold was $1 million, and so did the regions. and I don't know that there's a magic number to that, but I think probably, frankly, if you look at in the state of Iowa, the biggest, especially in the public sector owners, would be the city of Des Moines, the university region systems, and the DAS. So it was just a matter of their choice. No, there's no preset threshold.
Okay.
But a great question.
I have a question for Mike. I'm a little confused on this consultation versus enforcement, and I'm going to give you a real-life scenario that happened with me. About 3 years ago, I got a call that one of our contractors that was doing work for the city of Des Moines in the middle of summer was not providing water for their employees. They were out on the streets, and they were refusing to let them go to get water. Is that enforcement, or is that consultation?
That would be an enforcement issue, and there'd have to be the employee. There's two ways that you can do that. You can do that through the employee can do that and do that anonymously, and we will start an investigation, go out there and take a look at that, and make the appropriate recommendations that need to be done to take care of it, and in some cases, issue citations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chris, congratulations. I think this is a great concept, and I hope we can execute it. Two questions. I assume most of the things on your list, the long list, several pages, are things that most of your members are doing now. So in the future, what kind of cost implications do you think there are as we hire, we'll put projects out for bid? What do you think that implication is? And if you covered that before I walked in, I apologize.
How much will it cost the city to add this?
Yeah.
$875. And I would say that our suggestion would be that this be included in the plans and specs with a price. So I'm more thinking on the project cost.
So we got a big project on the southeast side right now. Do you expect that the contractors are going to have to raise their bids to the city to accommodate these kinds of things, or do you think most contractors believe they're doing them already?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I think even the strongest of safety advocates and the best planners are, because a job site is so dynamic, it can be safe 1 minute, and it is so dynamic the next minute there can be a hazard that just pops up. So my hope would be over time that this would reduce the cost of the projects because it reduces injuries, it reduces lost time days, and the most important thing would be it reduces the potential for injury and for death. So over time, the reception, maybe this is another way to answer your question, the reception that we've had in the industry has been great. The 35 companies that signed up didn't sign up under duress. They signed up because they were enthusiastic about what they thought this program could offer. So I wouldn't expect it to increase the price of the projects. Maybe the price of the projects go down over time.
And my second question is, the questionnaire itself, is that, or the
survey.
Assessment, the survey, is that a public document and available to the public if OSHA's involved?
It would be, that's the decision of the owner. If the decision of the owner wants it to be public, it can be public.
And we would be the owner of the project?
Yes.
Or not the owner?
Yeah.
And if it is, whether it's public or not public, where the state law here says we need to hire the lowest responsible bid.
Right.
Do you think this is the kind of information that over time the city should use to consider responsible if there's a pattern of failing to abide by this? Or to have a high?
Well, okay, maybe, I think I hear a couple of questions out of that. One is this actual service is considered a professional service. So this service is not subject to the competitive bid process. You know, the Work Safe project itself is, you know, it's like an architectural service or any other. So, you know, and I think over time, not just because of this program, but any contractors with whom the city has repeat, you know, safety issues with, underperformance or violations is something that would come up on your radar screen anyway, I would hope, going forward. And then, you know, if it's repeated and serious at some point in time, then perhaps your city engineering department needs to take a hard look at the causes and why that's happening, and then respond accordingly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor, Scott, who pays master builders?
The contractor.
So you're there representing the contractor, not labor. So if we had employers who hired organized labor employees, organized labor is already performing all these functions. They have been for decades. The employer wouldn't have to pay for it.
Well, no, that's not the case. On this one, Skip, this is a first of its kind. No one's doing this right now. No one's providing the services in the way in which this is presented. So, well, at least for now, it's a, you know, it's a non-issue. But the subscriber, the contractor, or the owner, I mean, it all depends on how you would look at it. Our request would be that you know, that you require this in your contract language, so everyone, you know, has that to work off of, and everyone's aware of the program. So in this case, my sense would be that the contractor would include it in their bid, and so the city would ultimately pay for it.
Well, first of all, I want to correct you on that. Labor organizations are doing that already. The city of Des Moines is already doing it. When I started with city in 1975, the first thing that happened was safety training in my department. We've got a very good safety history with the city of Des Moines. But it looks to me like this might give companies that use organized labor a little bit of an advantage, because organized labor is already doing all this training and oversight at the work sites.
Oh, no, I don't. I agree with there's a lot of folks that do safety, lots, hundreds. Labor, not labor, union, not union, I mean hundreds. What I was referring to is WorkSafe is unique. No one's doing this. This is the first of its kind. There may be more, you know, as time goes on, but that was the only point that I was making.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the presentation, Scott and Mike. Just a couple, 3 points. This applies to vertical construction, as I understand it, not horizontal. So think of buildings that we construct. The best example of a current project, I think Jeb may have mentioned it, is your municipal service center, which you've recently initiated the process on that. So that would be a project that this could apply to if the council is interested in pursuing it. To the various questions that have come up, it seems to me to make sense that if you decide to implement this thing, and we're looking for an indication from you, that we go through a process as you do in many other new initiatives to monitor it over the first year, and then report back in terms of how it's working and the success of it. We are looking for an indication from you this morning as to your interest in doing it. I think it's a good idea. I think there's enough positives here that we had to take it up, and the idea of workplace safety is certainly a worthy objective that we ought to embrace. But if the council is comfortable with it, our intention would be to apply this to the municipal service center. I'm looking at Jeb just to make sure Jeb agrees. Maybe he doesn't. And in any event, we would then come back with that particular project. So,
Mayor, members of council, just to refresh your memory, currently the municipal service center is out for bids right now. So if it was council's desire to include it in there, we would have to issue an addendum. We still have time to do that. The bids aren't going to be received until the end of the month. However, due to the nature that it's on the street, we would really want to try to get that out to the contractors as soon as possible. So if the Municipal Service Center is something that the council desires to include in this program, we'd really have to kind of know within the next day or two so that we could have time to process the addendum and get it out to the contractors and let them know would be a requirement.
If you received a nod from us, is that administratively possible, or do we have to vote on it?
Mr. Coleman, it's possible, but I wanted to have this discussion first.
I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate Mr. Morrow as well endorsing it and being here. I think from a safety side, I think it proves up.
I would agree. I think it's a great project, and if we've got a project that we could utilize this on and really make that our pilot project to determine, how is it working? Are there any tweaks or any things that we need to be aware of as we move forward? And maybe then look at it on, make a final decision as to other projects and what would be the baseline.
I think it's a good idea. I think that in the long run, if you can make it a job more safe, have less injuries in that, then the insurance companies will have less costs. It should be that it would benefit us in the long run on these type of projects.
Skip?
Well, I've got an issue. I'd like to see what the language would be in there. I do not want it to be installed so it eliminates companies that hire organized labor that already have safety and training programs in place.
There was some recommended language as far as the addendum that Master Builders had worked with, I think, DAS and Board of Regents. We would use similar language. Our legal department has reviewed it. We'd probably modify it slightly. But I think one of the key statements and the language that they suggested, that this is not to replace any contractors or organizational labor. Maybe we could expand that a little more. We have legal look at that as far as what, it's not to take anything out of what they're currently doing, since it's not really.
This would be on top of.
It's on top of it, because it doesn't have all their training requirements that the companies and labor would have. So that's a good point. And I think they've tried to address that in that specification, but that is something that we're obviously concerned when you put it in there. What are the requirements on the contractor?
Brian?
Thanks, Mayor. I agree with Skip on many points, but mainly I think it's important. I can't commit this morning to this. I mean, this is just being presented to us right now. So I think for me to commit to something like this, I need to take a step back. I agree with Skip. We need to hear from other folks. This is, I mean, it's a big deal. Otherwise, you won't be doing it. And we need to hear from others. So that's my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is a good program. I would just echo Christine's sentiment about seeing how it goes with the service center and then seeing if we want to institute it kind of on a permanent basis, but kind of have a trial run to see how everything works in terms of cost increases and things along those lines. I think it's a good program, so I would be okay doing it, at least in the short term, and then coming back and reviewing it on the backside.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for the presentation.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I think that everybody agrees that the goal of safety in the workplace is front and center. Let's move on to the Convention Visitors Bureau annual update.
Good morning, all.
Good morning, sir.
Lovely morning you planned for us. Appreciate it.
We knew you were coming, Greg.
Thank you. I'm Greg Edwards, President of the Greater Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's my pleasure to give you kind of our annual report on what's going on in our industry and all the wonderful things that are happening in our community. Our mission, of course, is to drive more visitors into Greater Des Moines, visitors being meetings, conventions, bus tours, business travelers, sporting events, etc. Obviously, what we do is increase the economic vitality for the entire region. We're governed, of course, by our board of directors. I'm proud to say that Chris Coleman has chaired our board the last 3 years, and who knows, he may stick around and chair it for another 3 years. We just can't seem to get rid of him. No, I just scratch that from the record, please, Madam Clerk. No, he's done an awesome job in leading our group. We've got a great executive board. Our executive board meets every month, led by Councilman Coleman, Paul Rottenberg with Orchestrate Management. Terry McLean, the general manager of the Marriott downtown, Rick Messerschmidt from First Bank out in West Des Moines, and Mayor Paula Deerenfield from Johnston, so a very well-rounded exec board. The rest of our board you can see is noted there. All of the, we now represent 13 cities across the region. All the mayors hold a seat on our board of cities that we represent. In addition, we have 5 hospitality members and 5 business community leader members as well. The majority of our funding comes through hotel motel tax. This pie chart will show you that we receive 2/7 of your tax, about 28%. Last year, the entire region brought in over $15 million in hotel motel tax. The City of Des Moines leads the charge with that, with the most number of hotel rooms throughout the central Iowa region as well. Last year, we projected that we hosted over 2.9 million visitors into Greater Des Moines. That includes both Polk and Dallas counties, having an economic impact of over $1.7 billion. Those numbers come through the state from a study provided by the U.S. Travel Association. Our own economic impact, we quantify our own numbers primarily based on our productivity and to show our board what we're up to on a day-to-day basis. But we show that we had in excess of $96 million direct impact to the community. The way we get there is we take our total number of definite room nights that we booked last year, which were over 362,000, which is the largest in our history, I may add. And then we take it times the cost per diem, which is according to Business Travel News at $264 is what they estimate an average traveler to Des Moines will spend for an overnight trip. That equals over $96 million. And then we take that amount and divide it by the amount of hotel tax that we bring in, and we come up with a return on investment. For every $1 we return over $28 to the local economies. We do a lot of our budget is obviously based on promotions, marketing, advertising. We do about $400,000 in direct advertising throughout about a 250-mile radius around the city of Des Moines. The majority of that amount goes towards television advertising that we run every spring and summer, promoting Greater Des Moines as a great family destination. We partner those ads with some of the major attraction partners in the community, Prairie Meadows, the Iowa Speedway, Adventureland, and actually Homemakers Furniture is now one of our cornerstone partners as well. We advertise heavily in Omaha, Kansas City, and throughout the state of Iowa, overlapping into southern Minnesota, western Illinois, all the contiguous states to Iowa. We also do a lot of print advertising in some of the national and regional publications like Midwest Living, People Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, etc. We do a lot of radio promos across the state, which we do as trade-outs with them, offering them free weekends to give away on their radio programs and what have you. So we do have a great impact throughout the state of Iowa in our advertising. Last year we had over 400,000 prospective visitors inquire for more information, which was a huge number. These people came to us via website, email, telephone calls, all kinds of different mediums that way. 2 major publications that we publish every year is, one is our Catch Des Moines magazine. And I may just pause for a moment and fill you in on the Catch Des Moines theme. For those of you that didn't catch it, last fall we announced our new brand of Catch Des Moines. That was after we went through about a year-long extensive process with ZLR Ignition, a local branding company here in Des Moines, that went out and really surveyed all of our different constituencies. Elected officials, our board, our hoteliers, our hospitality community, our locals, And then they interviewed people who had visited Des Moines and people who had never visited Des Moines, but it indicated they had interest in visiting Des Moines to find out more about perceptions, who we are, what we offer, all those kinds of things. No surprise to any of us and any of you, but they found that Des Moines offers a lot of cultural value. It's a city of vibe. It's a city of fun, activity, all very positive responses. Therefore, we changed our See Des Moines to now Catch Des Moines to really offer these people kind of action to come visit, catch kind of the spirit of Des Moines and what we represent. Our visitor guide, we publish over 285,000 of those annually, and then we also publish our planner's guide, which is a more specific tool for meeting planners, sports event planners, things like that. Distribute over 3,000 of those annually. We also have added to our budget over the years, now in excess of about $400,000 in private sector dollars that we bring in, creating a new corporate partnership out there. You can see we now have 10 different corporate partners that contribute to our overall mission. We have over 700 partners now that believe in the mission and what we do at the CVB. Total revenues of non-tax dollars actually this year are going to exceed about $700,000. So great new contribution other than just sole dependency of hotel tax money. Our website, we totally revamped too with our brand. Last year, capturing over 420,000 unique visitors to our site. We also created a new mobile site, which is also catchdesmoines.com, which will show you everything on the spot. If you're in downtown Des Moines and you're looking for a restaurant, you're looking for a steakhouse, whatever type of food you're looking for, it'll direct you to that closest restaurant within the proximity of your location. Social media, obviously a very important part of what we do and how we continue to market the community. Obviously Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, YouTube, all those great kinds of things. We actually kind of shifted a position that we had and have turned that into more social media as well as doing all our internet updates as well. I think another important thing for you all to know that we also do put money back into the system. This year, our budget, we will put in over $400,000 back into groups coming in. A lot of these groups that come into Greater Des Moines are coming here because of incentives that we provide. We might provide them free facility charges, shuttle service, perhaps a free opening reception, different tools we use to obviously try to beat out our competition. This is just a short list on some of the stuff that we've reimbursed throughout this past year. Everything from reimbursing facility costs at the Iowa State Fairgrounds for things like the World Pork Expo to things that we're going to be doing next week with the NCAA Wrestling Championships as well. Some of the significant bookings from last year, I think in reviewing this with your city manager, Mr. Clark, he commented, you can certainly tell we're in Iowa. From choral directors to farm shows to religious conferences to the National Rodeo, and of course the square dancers. And I do have to tell you that the big closer on the square dance convention last year when we bid on that was your own Chris Coleman, who traveled.
You would have been
too.
proud of my do-si-do.
You looked really great in that little skirt too. It was unbelievable.
You have pictures?
We do.
Actually, we do.
We'll hold those for a later date. But really, some neat thing, I do have to comment, you know, not only like National Square Dancers, huge convention, but I got to point out National High School Rodeo is going to be here next summer. Huge event. It's currently in New Mexico, never been to Des Moines. They'll bring about 3,000 people in with them. They'll be here about 10 days. Tremendous impact, all happening at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. So just another new event we're bringing in. Obviously, the sports side of things continues to grow. We now book about as many sports room nights as we do convention room nights, so a tremendous growth in that market. Gearing up for next week, the NCAA National Championships for Wrestling will be in your city. It's going to be a huge event, a huge undertaking. We've been working on this for literally the last 3.5 years, having monthly meetings. We're now, obviously, the last 6 months holding weekly meetings, just making sure we've got everything in line, from shuttle service to restaurants, knowing the impact that these folks are going to have. It's kind of an unusual group in that these folks really love their wrestling, and they're going to sit in Wells Fargo Arena until those sessions end. Now, those sessions sometimes will end at 2:30 in the afternoon. When they break, they want to go eat in our restaurants. Well, generally, 2:30 in the afternoon, the restaurants are cleaning their grills and getting ready for dinner. Same thing at night. They're going to end at 10 o'clock at night. They're going to hit the bars. They're going to hit the restaurants, and we just got to be ready for them. And we've really done a nice job in communicating that throughout the metro, working with local chambers and restaurant association and things like that. So, huge event. I think you'll be real proud to be representing your city next week when these folks are in town. Value proposition, greater exposure. We offer more frequency. We offer obvious direct results. We stimulate your economy, and we act in a lot of cases as a facilitator and innovator for many of these groups. On that, I will end. I'm not asking you for anything today, well, but I may be back tomorrow. So.
Great question. On your budget, so you showed, I think it was 15 million plus that you get from hotel motel. So
that's the total tax dollars.
Yeah.
We get $3 million.
You get $3 million of that, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you added, you said, close to 700, 800,000 on
Yes.
top of that?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so number of employees, has that stayed fairly consistent over the years?
It has. We have 20 full-time employees, 5 part-time. I think when I got here 12 years ago, we had 18 employees maybe. So we've grown just a little bit.
Okay.
Grown on the sales side of things, and then we've grown on the marketing side primarily.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Skip?
I'd just like to say, as Greg knows, the Good Guys Custom and Auto Show Company, they're the largest outdoor car show company in the world. I think they do 26 shows around the United States. They're headquartered in Pleasanton, California. Andrea Saravelli, their marketing director, continually gives a high score to the Des Moines CVB. She feels like you're the easiest and best to work with. And also, I know the people in Newton. I've spoke with them at the Iowa Speedway, and you partner with them in Newton, and they give you extremely high score there. So we're proud, at least I am, of the work that you're doing. It's just fantastic. And from Newton, Iowa to California, they're singing your praises. So
Good. Thank you.
Anybody else? Greg, thank you very much.
If I could make one quick comment, and I agree with Skip's comment that we're very user-friendly. With my board member hat on there, I know that's because we have a lot of partners, and many of those events that Greg referenced are in the city of Des Moines, and actually in a lot of times in our public right-of-way, worried about transportation and other things. And I just want to point out the good work of our police department that is a critical partner in this, and then especially of Candy, who coordinates all that street use and special event stuff. We would not be successful with all these things without internal cooperation from the city, and I know that Candy leads that, and I just want to acknowledge and thank her for that.
All right. Greg, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Let's move ahead now to the Union Pacific Railroad Street vacation update.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Phil Delafield, Community Development Department, and I'm here today to present the follow-up information on the Union Pacific project that you asked us to take a look at. So with no delay, I'll jump into that. Just an overview as to where we're at in the process. In response to questions about how we can reduce delays at street crossings, the Union Pacific brought us a proposal. There was a series of neighborhood meetings, then the P&Z hearing was held, which brought it to the January 28th City Council meeting. And at that meeting, you folks asked us to have another look at it. So CD staff, economic development staff, and engineering staff worked with the UP to take another look at this. And I'd like to acknowledge Brenda Manwarning and Mike Blackley, I believe it is, thank you, are here as well from the Union Pacific. So as staff looked at this, we tried to take an approach that would give us the view from the community. So the 30,000-foot level view. What are the things that the community needs for a balanced community perspective? And we broke that down into perspective, into mobility, neighborhood quality, and economic growth. And you can see the points there that we tried to focus on: people and goods, character of the neighborhood, and connectivity of the neighborhood, and economic growth from an employment basis and a business basis. This is just a glimpse of the UP system and the rail system in central Iowa. You can see that the UP goes both north and south, and then east and west up through Nevada, and then farther to the north. The UP line, you can see it, let's see if I can get a UP line coming in from the south here, and then through to the north to Nevada, and then their main lines east and west, and then north to the Twin Cities. So these are the closings and the areas that we've been discussing, and the Hull Avenue yard and the Short Line yard, as well as closings at Hull Avenue, Scott Avenue, Southeast 34th, and Southeast 36th Streets. And again, our focus on mobility, neighborhood, and quality, and you'll see that as we go through this presentation. So what has changed since you've last seen this? We now have before you one less street closure. We have some aesthetic enhancements and additional safety and street improvements, and I'll run through those. This is the Southeast 34th and Southeast 36th Street areas, and you can see from the original proposal, we have the turn lanes at from the westbound direction at East 30th and Dean intersection. We have the previously proposed Southeast 34th Street closure, and then we have Southeast 36th Street, which is a change. We've that closure will now be open, and then the improvements for the emergency road access from Southeast 34th to Southeast 36th. Those improvements there to address the concerns of the neighborhood with high waters from either the Des Moines River or the 7th Ward ditch. And then the improvements to Laurel Hill Road paved from Southeast 34th to Southeast 36th. So again, you can see we've tried to work on the connectivity pieces and the business pieces in this proposal. In the Hull Avenue area, we have additional warning signs on the Guthrie Avenue, and this would prevent folks from turning down Dixon Avenue when the trains are blocking those that route. So again, you can go forward on Guthrie. And it warns of blockage on the Dixon Street south of Hull. We also have the improvements that were originally proposed. Those are the restripe and early notification the restriping and early notification improvements that were previously listed. Also in the Hull Avenue area, we have the Euclid and Dixon turning lane signal. That was in the original proposal. And we have the Dixon and Hull Avenue widening, which also was in the original proposal. We also had some staff go out and take a look at, talk to the business owners in the neighborhood, and discovered that there were some issues with traffic along Hull Avenue. So we have a proposal to widen Hull Avenue from Dixon to ADM. And this addresses the truck congestion that was occurring in this area from the area businesses. Then there's the Hull Avenue cul-de-sac, which was previously proposed, and the streetscape and pavement improvements, and I'm going to focus on those a little bit closer. This is in the along Hull Avenue, and it's a streetscape like improvement, and it includes street trees and a a traffic median to calm traffic, a new pavement overlay to the east, to East 24th Street to improve the connectivity to the neighborhoods to the east. And then the streetscape project provides buffering, calming, and connectivity for the neighborhood. And again, with the early warning systems at Hubble and East University, this would be an early warning system on East University that the Hubble Avenue would be closed. So as you're traveling on East University, if a train was blocking Hubble Avenue, it advises motorists to reroute versus turning on Hubble and then getting sort of captured by the street. These are the updated costs, $2 million plus. Union Pacific's piece of this, $1.5 million, and a state grant of $500,000. So this is the current proposal. This is what we're talking about. The short line yard and the Hull Avenue yard corridor. We're talking about crossings at Southeast 34th, Southeast 36th, Dean, East Walnut, Capitol, East Grand, Des Moines, Hubble, Easton, and Hull. And there are extended delays that are occurring at these crossings currently. For example, ADM currently blocks Hull Avenue about 4 hours a day during the business day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the traffic counts, just as a refresher, we're talking about 3,200 at Hull Avenue and Southeast 34th, and 19,000 plus at Hubble, East Grand, East Walnut, and Dean. From a future perspective, we expect there will be an increase in rail. The U.S. Department of Transportation anticipates 60% increase by 2040. And there are local increases. ADM looks to increase by about 20% in the last 4 years. I'm sorry, let me restate that. ADM has increased over the last 4 years by about 20%. And so we expect those delays at crossings to increase. And in the future, there is also the prospect of future passenger rail from Chicago to Council Bluffs and Omaha. And the preferred route is through Des Moines, utilizing the, some of the Union Pacific Rail. And from UP's perspective, freight is a primary consideration, and freight capacity impacts their ability to make the lines available to passenger rail. Also, as a piece of perspective, the Des Moines capacity impacts Iowa in general. If the congestion in Des Moines occurs, then it leads to trains taking a longer route to avoid Des Moines. Longer routes add cost, and it reduces the viability of other Iowa rail facilities. Other considerations on the horizon, there's the potential for a transload facility in Des Moines. This is a facility that helps with the transfer of freight between different travel modes. And truck traffic, street maintenance. The short line trains equals approximately 6,000 truckloads of goods that will come off the roads per year. That's based on 12 trains a day and 5 to 10 pass through. So as summary, we have the character and connectivity issue for the neighborhoods. Southeast 36 would remain open. The traffic median and street trees in the Hull Avenue area to sort of improve the buffering from the industrial areas to the north. We have a pavement overlay on Hull Avenue to the east to connect to the neighborhood to the east, Delaware to East 24th. And we have the early notification signs on East University. From an employment and economics tax-based basis, we have the Union Pacific itself has their support of Des Moines businesses, 103 businesses, 38 primary, which includes ADM, Bridgestone. And from UP's perspective, the Des Moines lines are nearing capacity. Des Moines will become capacity constrained without these improvements. So the existing businesses that use rail traffic have limited ability to support growth, and the new businesses potentially could locate elsewhere if Des Moines becomes capacity constrained. Example businesses from an economic standpoint, ADM employs 155 employees and the $9.7 million annual payroll, and closure of the Hull Avenue crossing allows for a $2 to $3 million expansion of their refined oil facilities. Bridgestone, also a local employer, 2,000 employees, $140 million annual payroll, 1,500 rail cars annually, and they've undergone $151 million expansion since 2010. UP itself has 163 employees and $11.8 million annual payroll, and the Union Pacific has invested $30 million since 2009, and I've listed the improvements that you see there. So in summary, delays at the crossing will increase if nothing is done. We anticipate growth in freight. Increases are already occurring because of improvements to these various facilities, and we are undergoing currently closure on Hull for up to 4 hours per day. From a neighborhood character and connectivity perspective, we have addressed north-south connectivity for Laurel Hill and privacy, and provided for an emergency access route. And in the Hull Avenue neighborhood and character, we have the streetscapes in Hull Avenue, traffic calming and pavement overlay, and early notification signage on East University. And from an economic impact, the jobs perspective, UP supports existing businesses, 103 businesses, 38 primary, ADM, Bridgestone, and without these improvements, Des Moines becomes capacity constrained. It limits our ability to support growth and attract new businesses. So this is an overview. If you agree, or if you so direct, the next step would be a March 25th City Council where you direct staff to negotiate a preliminary agreement. In June would then come back to City Council for a final approval, construction of the improvements, and the permanent closure of the crossings. And with that, I'm available as our staff for questions.
Brian?
Thanks, Mayor. First, Chicago to Omaha is never going to happen. That's irrelevant to this. Secondly, although this is a much improved plan, and I appreciate staff working on it, it's a lot better than it was. Finally, but I'm in a position where I don't see how this improves things long term. There's a fundamental problem with capacity, and I understand that. But closing these streets and doing the work that is presented here is not a solution. The final thing I'll say is the real solution, and I agree with Skip on this, is to create underpasses to go underneath these train tracks so people can move freely throughout the city. That's the solution. This is a good start. This is better than what it was, but I again cannot support this particular plan.
Christine?
Phil, a couple questions for you. Going back, and you made the comment that you learned from talking with the businesses in Guthrie Park that there were some additional issues on Hull Avenue. Did you have a good representation from the businesses? Would you say it's 50%, 60%?
Yeah, please. Jason Van Essen with our planning staff was working with Rita Connor in economic development on those interviews, so I'd ask Jason.
Mayor, members of the council, Jason Van Essen. We did have good representation at the different meetings that we had. We tried a couple different approaches where we had kind of more of a broad meeting, and then we've also gone out and met individually. Rita Connor had several one-on-ones with business owners, particularly in that area of Dixon to the tracks where the most impact would occur, and that was really our focus. But we did have a lot of discussion.
Okay. Then follow up on that, where you've got the signage that you've indicated to give notice that Hull is going to be, or that there's a train not to turn down. Why was it just that location? It seems like there would be other locations that would warrant signage as well. Right.
We actually have several locations that we're proposing, but
the one on Guthrie, that was primarily proposed to address emergency. The fire department was concerned that as they were heading westbound on Guthrie, that they may want to turn up north to Dixon and then to Hull, and they wanted to have that early warning. But it also does address if you're a motorist in the area and might be looking to go north on Dixon, and advise you as well.
Okay, then my last question would be, what are we looking at long-term wise? I mean, you've made some comments in here about the increase and, you know, the ability to expand. So this is what's being proposed right now. Working with UPS, do you see, you know, the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, are we looking at additional closings? Is this pretty much what we need to do in order to expand capacity for the next 5 to 10 years?
Brenda or Mike, would you care to?
Good morning, Brenda Mainwaring, Union Pacific Railroad out of Omaha, Nebraska. We anticipate that this will give us a good 10 years. It's hard to project based on what we think that freight traffic is going to do. We know freight traffic is going to increase. A lot of that's coming to rail for some environmental reasons. But we anticipate that these closures, because of the strategic location of these closures, will give us enough capacity to handle traffic for the good 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Skip?
Jason, at the meeting that we held at ADM, and I know it wasn't staff that made the statement, but the statement was made that all the businesses 100% on that section of Hull supported this closure. That's not exactly an honest statement, is it?
I don't believe that. If I implied that they did, I misspoke.
No,
but
staff didn't do it. But that statement was made at that meeting that they'd been polled and 100% were in favor of the closure.
I don't recall that. Are you speaking to a comment that maybe an ADM
Yes.
or somebody mentioned? Okay. I don't recall that being part of the discussion. You know, I think we were pretty aware of the concerns that were expressed and throughout the whole process. And I know that part of doing our homework since the last time this was before you is we, you know, went through the response cards that we had from the P&Z meeting and stuff. And that was really what drove, we asked Rita Connor to go out and meet with individual business owners. And so we've tried to address the concerns the best that we can.
Could I ask Jeb Brewer to come up here a second? Jeb, how many viaducts did we remove on the south side of downtown Des Moines for the Martin Luther King?
I know one particularly. I don't know if some of that was before my time, but we did remove one railroad viaduct, 7th.
So there's at least one removed. Do you have any idea how long it was there?
I mean, it probably was there 60 years.
How many?
Probably 60 years.
60?
Just guessing. I could look it up for you if you want.
If you would, I'd like to have that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bob?
Well, I want to thank the StaffNet for the efforts they've put in to vastly improve this. I think that it's a lot better than it was when we started. I'm not sure I'm sold on it yet, but I think with the warning signals and that, especially for emergency vehicles, if Dixon's closed, I mean, if Hull's closed and you want to go across Dixon to Hull, then you can go on over Guthrie, or you can go on over to Euclid and address the Luther Park and those areas up in there, and the Grandview University. And I think that those are very much needed. Probably would, you know, even be helpful now, even if they don't close Hall, for them to be addressed. I know some of the people are saying that you're going to cut off our neighborhood. There are so many alternate routes around there, I don't see that it cuts off the neighborhood in any way. There's a lot of people, I know on the east side of Delaware and that would like to leave it open, but I don't necessarily think that it really cuts off their neighborhood with the alternate routes. But I think you people have done a vast improvement from what it was when it started. So.
Two quick comments. I think in front of us, we have it on our agenda tonight, which is only to set the date of hearing. I think we should have that hearing. I think every other time it's kind of been before us, it was already pulled back, or, you know, people thought maybe it wasn't going to happen or it was going to happen. So I support setting the date of hearing tonight and looking to things. Here's the one thing that I think has been not well defined to people, and it's been really clear to me the last 10 days, 2 weeks. A lot of people think when we talk about the economic development or the impact economically on this, they think that we're trying to help the railroad company, that it would be really good for the railroad company to expand. And that's not it at all for me. It's the businesses, the manufacturers, and the industry that is along these routes that really rely on railroad to succeed. We want them to grow. I mean, I think all of us would like to see our jobs grow in our community, especially jobs in industrial and manufacturing. That's good for our economy and a well-rounded economy. And I keep hearing from more and more businesses that lack of adequate railroad is going to cost us jobs, cost us growth. And I think we need to open ourselves up to that hearing, listen to that message, gauge the points that Bob just brought up. How comfortable are people with the alternative places of access? And I mentioned this a couple of months ago whenever it was on our agenda last. I'm real interested in the one public safety issue that I have, and Manager, I'm looking right at you, is the number of kids that live west of I-235 that go to Garton School over there. And I would like to make sure that we have a handle on exactly how many people that is, not just west of I-235, but west of the closing as well, because I think some kids go across the closing as well. I want to make sure that there's an adequate plan. The last thing that I would like is to know that you know, kids are staying on their own their old route, walking to school and doing all that, when now there's not a street and a safe crossing there. So I'd like us to work with the schools, find out about how much of a problem that is for how many families, and how we can help through our traffic or our police department help the schools address that situation. I mean, I'd like to know that for those families that that issue of safety for kids going to school is considered, and that we have good solutions. And if we don't for that, it's really hard to support economic development over kids. I think we can address that, but I am interested in kind of a communication about that.
I think as a safety issue, anybody west of the tracks should go to Cattell. I know when I grew up over on Capitol, anybody west of the tracks went to Amos Hyatt, and east of the tracks went to Woodrow Wilson. And I think that's a real safety precaution that should be looked at.
I appreciate that, and I hope that's the situation. Although I think when we did have some public input, we had somebody claim otherwise, and I'd just like to find out how many people are affected.
Anything else? All right.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Coleman. Tonight, it is not a set date of hearing. Just to be clear on that item, on the 25th, we would be asking for approval of a preliminary date, preliminary agreement. The closures that we would have to hold for the set, where we would do the set date of hearing, would then come after the negotiation. So we'd want to have the agreement in place first before we actually close the streets. So just a clarification, and make sure that that's clear.
So then ultimately, Phil, how many times we'll take action on the 25th, and then it would come back?
You'd agree to the preliminary terms of the agreement, then I believe you'd have a final terms of agreement, and we would have a set hearing and closure for the streets as the final action.
So it sounds like it's coming back 3 or 4 times?
Yes, I believe that'd be right.
So,
Mr. Manager?
Is it on tonight? I'm sorry, Mayor.
I think I was mistaken when I talked earlier. I thought we'd have set the hearing on tonight. What Phil just said is that's not the case. It'll be preliminary approval on the 25th. Should council agree to do that, then that initiates a process with hearings and so on down the line.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
We would not want to close the streets without having the agreement in place. Thank you.
Phil, at the last meeting we held on this, it was indicated that there would be meetings held with the neighborhoods on the east side that are concerned with this. Are we still planning on doing that?
Mr. Moore, we can meet with the neighborhoods if that's what council desires, but at this point, we're asking you to give us the preliminary nod if this is where you hope to go.
I would really like to see one more meeting at least with the neighbors. And I think, did I understand you, Phil? I think you said that 6,000 trucks per year. It says per day in here.
Per day. Oh, is that correct? Yeah, thank you.
6,000 per day, yeah. That's a lot of trucks taken off of our crumbling highways.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it says local roads. So that leads us to believe these 6,000 semis are going to be driving around Des Moines, which isn't true. If they're coming from the north or south, they're going to go around on 8035.
I think the point being made
Brenda,
here is,
do you have a problem with that statement?
I would correct it, yeah. I'd be happy to correct it. There are, those 12 trains per day are serving local industry. The 12 trains are approximately 80 to 100 cars each. Each car is approximately 3 truckloads. So it's just kind of doing the math, and then the additional truckloads passing through would still be passing through on local roads, presumably. But the 6,000 is in fact per day on local roads based on the number of equivalent truckloads that rail handles local traffic and passing through.
So some of those businesses are handled by rail, but the majority of them aren't. How would the goods get from the railhead to the businesses around Des Moines?
Certainly some of what comes to the rail is being, we're picking up at those local businesses. 103 businesses that we serve are served directly by rail. We pick up from them, we deliver to them. If we're not able to do that, they would have to have truck service.
Which would increase to the 6,000 additional trucks per day.
An equivalent rate, just as an order of magnitude, based on tonnage, based on the number of trucks it takes to haul the goods that we haul, is in the equivalent range of 6,000 trucks per day.
And with the proposal of this new,
Transload?
down on East 15th or so, down by the Southeast Connector, I think would be bringing more train loads in for unloading locally merchandise.
That's obviously an MPO project, but that is what they are hoping for with that transload facility.
Mr. Manager, did you want to make comment?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I think you've touched on the key points. Just from my vantage point, this has been a huge challenge for the staff. When the council referred it back to us, our #1 objective was to go back and look at the proposal from a city perspective and see what could be done to minimize or lessen the impact on neighbors. We are very aware of the concern that residents have expressed to the city about this particular proposal. It's my belief, and I think that's been apparent with the presentation today, that we have been somewhat successful at finding ways to make this a better proposal. All of that said, there is just no way to get that impact on some neighbors to zero. There is some impact here, and I think ultimately this is one of those decisions that only council can make, where you're going to weigh the interest in terms of what's best for the community as a whole versus those impacts. But I am personally pleased that we've been able to lessen some of those adverse impacts on residents, but I acknowledge you can't get it down to zero. There still are some impacts that come out of it. There is, in everything that I read, there is clearly going to be more rail traffic, more freight moved by rail than in the past. And if we as a city don't somehow figure out a way to accommodate that, there will be some adverse impacts in terms of the ability of our businesses and industry to grow. But in the process of making the trains move more rapidly through the city, there is a positive impact on the city as a whole, and that is that it lessens the blockages that occur in our streets. The trains move more quickly, and so the period of time that the train blocks traffic is reduced as a result of that. That's not the perfect solution. A viaduct would be better. I clearly understand that, but this is a step in the right direction, in my view. And the economic impact on our community is profound, given the number of businesses that are served by rail. The last thing I would say is, in terms of the viaduct, you might recall the discussion we had when the council considered the capital budget at a recent council meeting. Our dialogue at that time was to say that the viaduct is a very expensive undertaking for us, at least $15 million, probably more. I'm looking at Jeb, probably more like $20 million to build a viaduct. We simply don't have those funds in our accounts right now, but our pledge is to work with our congressional delegation, with the U.S. Department of Transportation, with our state legislators, and see if there is any ability to generate some federal or state funds that might help defray some of the cost of building such a viaduct. So in other words, we're certainly willing to look at that in terms of a strategy going forward. That's my pledge to the council. The mayor and I have talked about it very briefly, and I hope he shares that view in terms of our willingness to pursue that option with our friends at the state and federal level. So if we're successful there, that would be a way to pursue that project in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I see some folks out here. If before the legislative update, would anybody like to make any quick comments? We got a couple.
Good morning, Marty Mock, 2701 Arthur. Without going into the details, which I'll save for the 25th meeting, one of the questions that came up during the plan and zoning hearing and has come up here at council is this issue of long-term planning. You've dealt with some of the issues, particularly in the area of Laurel Hill, and they begin to understand that there's a possibility that that's a good thing for them, though I'm sure they'd rather keep East 34th open than East 36th. But the other thing is, and you've even alluded to it now, we keep talking about the future in this nebulous terms, but we do absolutely nothing to plan for that future. You know, yes, I appreciate the fact you know that we need a viaduct. We've needed that now for 40 or 50 years. And so it's not an issue that says all of a sudden this is going to be a magic cure. The fact that we need it and saying we need it does not actually accomplish it. I have not seen it on any kind of a budget yet. I've not seen any kind of commitment. Actually, what I don't see is any commitments, period, through this process. I see a lot of positive looks to the future and potential economic development and that kind of things, but basically we still have this issue for the neighborhoods of a pipe dream that their life's ultimately going to be better by the fact that this railroad's going through. I know during a hearing of the Plan and Zoning Commission that one of the greatest concerns they had was long-range planning, and that was their role, as long-range planning. And yet this does not do anything with long-range planning at all. It doesn't say when we might get viaducts that will serve the purpose. We say we may hope for that, but unless it's on a plan and we see it in paper and we see a promise, then all it is the same pipe dream we've had for 40 or 50 or 60 years, that there'll be viaducts there. The issue also is you've not divided the issue between those trains which are becoming parking lots, those tracks are becoming parking lots for trains, to those trains who are going to be coming through Des Moines longer than they ever have been before, longer trains. And so while we might get some benefit in the short term from the trains that they're able to park, you're still going to have longer trains coming, and I'd still like to hear from somebody that can give me definitive how long these intersections are going to be blocked. If these long trains who are coming through Des Moines are 150, 200 cars or more, then you're going to see blockage that's going to be in the area of 35 minutes, 40 minutes still, the way it is right now. And so there's been no commitment from anything from the railroad as to how they're going to help us stop blocked intersections, except close them and then we won't worry about them being blocked. So I'd like to see on the 25th a much better concept of long-term planning of really what's going to happen, and particularly in the node of Dean and Hubble and that area. It was mentioned in the presentation of the blockages of Scott, and yet I have not heard anything yet about a blockage, Scott, but it was mentioned in the first presentation you had today. And so there are things here that are incomplete, and I think that's the greatest concern I have. Thank you.
Cindy Raymond with Laurel Hill. I think it's a terrific plan for the greater percentage of it, except for the closing of the, I'm glad you decided to keep up or opening the Southeast 36th Street because, and I applaud you.
Cindy, could you speak to the microphone,
I'm sorry.
please?
I applaud them for keeping Southeast 36th Street on, but I can't give them a standing ovation even though I am, because all those changes that they are making, the improvements to intersections, the trees, all those things could have been done anyway and need to be done anyway without the closing of Hull or Southeast 34th Street. The reason for that is because if they put in those switches that they can switch these trains faster, if they make the improvements that they're talking about, 4 hours a day, 4 hours a day, we've got 20 more hours that's one intersection, which seems to be the most heavily blocked, is not blocked. I personally, who have been dodging trains on the east side basically since I learned to drive when I was 16, is, you use it when it's there. I would rather have it for 50% of the time, 20% of the time, than not to have it at all. And permanent is permanent. I don't want them to be closed permanently. If they're not going to be blocking them, I want them to be of use. There are people who are, if the trains are running at night, well, that's part of the 20 or the 4 hours. They said a day. Are they talking day, 24 hours? Or are they talking day, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday? But either way, there are more hours in the day that it's not being blocked. And these hours are being used and can still be used by those residents in those neighborhoods that work night shifts, split shifts, crazy hours to make their life more convenient and to get them to and from work in a timely manner. The other, well, you know what? I did it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Mayor, County, and Council for an opportunity to speak. First of all, I'd like to address Mr. Mahaffey. You spoke about the availability of alternate routes. Really, they're detours, and they're not good detours. Euclid Avenue floods, Guthrie Avenue ices over. That's a real concern for us in terms of access to emergency routes, particularly when the East 12th fire station needs to get to our neighborhood on the east side of the track. So the alternative routes have difficulty that we can address later. Developing and maintaining industrial space, and more specifically the railroad space, has to be about sustainability, livability, and profitability for everybody involved. So if we're really going to enhance the continued growth and development of the urban Des Moines community that is gaining national attention, it must also be about sustaining neighborhoods. Inherent in that goal should be a willingness to keep our neighborhood connected to efficient routes. So we're talking about connectivity here. We need good connectivity for emergency services, direct routes to local businesses we support, and direct routes to Garton Elementary, and I will add Goodrow Middle School. The Luther Park Care Facility and Grandview University are also assets to our neighborhood that we need direct routes to. These are all assets that enhance our neighborhood and property values on the east and west side of the tracks. Our industrial small businesses along Delaware Avenue must be provided with open, direct access to customers and goods and services needed for operation. I still do not hear any concern for them. I've talked to those businesses. They're concerned about this closure. Closing Hall Avenue undermines any attempt at creating sustainable neighborhoods on either side of the tracks. Cutting off and dividing already struggling neighborhoods with enhanced walls and blockades is a formula for decline. Our neighborhood hasn't fully recovered from the foreclosure crisis, and we are seeing more rental properties emerge all the time. Our once vibrant neighborhood park now sits mostly idle and vacant, with a waiting pond looking oddly out of place because of sand dumped into it. and only 3 straggly pieces of equipment to play on at Fairmont Park. So the few assets we have are all the more that we hold near and dear. And perhaps more alarming is the fact that this Union Pacific proposal absolutely flies in the face of the Crossroads, the Capitol Crossroads meetings I attended at Grandview University. I went to these meetings assuming they were serious about supporting neighborhoods. That remains to be seen. But we were asked some fundamental questions. A simple question was, what ideas would have the most impact on neighborhoods? Would a good answer be close down an important thoroughfare that connects neighborhoods and a variety of assets that impact property value? Here's a second fundamental question we were asked. To improve the quality of life in neighborhoods, what is the most important area to focus on? Housing, commercial areas, schools, amenities, infrastructure. Would an appropriate answer be close the street down as opposed to let's look at some innovative approaches to rail and industrial space, like the example at the Olympic Sculpture Park in Seattle. Seattle has an active freight railroad line next to one of the most respected urban parks in this country. Or how about the High Line in New York City? It is an elevated walkway in which tax revenues from the subsequent development outweighed construction costs. Are we so stuck in 20th century thinking that our vision can only extend to the tip of our noses? Do we want industrial brown zones like we have now in the vicinity of the railway, or do we want an industrial green park? If we want industrial brown zones, we close an important neighborhood thoroughfare, put up an enhanced barricade and token trees, and let Union Pacific take a public right-of-way so they can park railway cars. If we want to begin moving into the 20th century, we need to look at other urban centers and find win-win solutions. I would ask Union Pacific, is it really in your best interest to be in an adversarial relationship with surrounding small businesses and neighborhoods? There is only so much available space, and you will soon run out of turf wars to win to accommodate your growth. You are heading towards the end of capacity because of your archaic thinking. You could be spending valuable time and resources exploring alternatives that secure your economic future and that of your neighbors. And finally, I would ask the City Council, can you really expect to find a workable solution when the city engineers and city officials meet and operated behind closed doors with Union Pacific for 3 years, and more recently, when the city manager asked them to go back to the drawing table? Important stakeholders have been missing from the very beginning. Public hearings are not an appropriate forum for genuine input or exploration of solutions. Are you unwilling to tap into the expertise and experience of my neighbors? Collectively, we do not feel that our interests have been represented by city officials, and we feel the city has failed to talk directly to us to understand how the railroad really impacts quality of life on a daily basis. Mr. Clark, I emailed you and asked to be included, or asked that our neighborhood be included when you suggested that they go back to the table. I heard nothing. There is an old proverb that says, "A rising tide lifts all boats." Let's take the time necessary to create an innovative win-win solution launched by 21st century thinking. If Seattle, New York, and Austin can think like this, so can Des Moines. Thank you.
For the record, could you give us your name and address, ma'am?
I'm sorry. Yes, my name is Sheree Mortiz. I live at 2904 East 22nd Street. Thank you, Mayor.
Morning, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Mike Swayze, and I'm the Business Recruitment Director for the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and also reside at 4412 Southwest 33rd in Des Moines. I want to speak to just a couple of points relating to economic benefits of the UP, and the UP has a very aggressive economic development team that markets their sites throughout the country, and they're a very good partner to work with. We've worked with them over the years, and so they've provided just a great working relationship to help promote the area and the Central Iowa region. One thing that I want to make sure that we don't understate is the capacity constrained designation that we may receive in central Iowa if we can't resolve some of these issues. And what that means to me is there's a big map at the UP marketing department, headquarters, economic development group, whoever, with a big red spot in an area that they stay away from. And so that will constrain not only our efforts to recruit new companies to the area, obviously, but even more importantly, we just have a couple mentioned on the slideshow there, Bridgestone and ADM, that have, between those two, and if you throw in the UP, the payroll is over $160 million annually, just between those three. I can tell you personally, I'm working on a project in central Iowa that a $10 to $20 million expansion, manufacturing jobs, that will not occur if we become capacity constrained because they need expanded service from the UP. So I'm not sure of all the details of how we get to a resolution, obviously, but from the economic development standpoint, it does give site selectors and other people a reason to check us off the list when they're looking at an area to do business. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's quickly go to our legislative update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the lateness of the morning, I have a brief handout that will explain some of the current bills after the first funnel last week that has reduced the legislation, thankfully, by about 80 to 90% in each House. These are the bills that we're keeping, just a few of the bills that we're keeping our eye on still. There's still somewhere around 90 Senate bills and 60 House bills that are out there. I won't go through the bills. There's some detailed information there, and I'd be happy to share more information in upcoming weeks. And we'll certainly keep the council posted as it goes along, but given the lateness of the hour, I'll just keep that real short this morning.
All right. At a quick glance, does anybody have any questions about any of these bills? All right. I think we've heard mostly from the public, unless somebody has some comment regarding.
Where is this available for the public?
Sure.
Where would it be?
They could ask me. I
okay.
did it myself.
All right.
You're going to be up at the Capitol tomorrow for the MAC meeting? Okay.
All right, any other comment from the public? Seeing none, let's call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for attending.